Are you tired of all the voices who say, focus on the bottom line numbers?
Say whatever you have to, just close the sale.
Just get the credit card. It doesn't matter what you deliver.
You will never build a successful business until you grow a pair and stop caring so much.
Here, we respectfully disagree. We give you permission to embrace who you are, how much you care, and encourage you to design a business that works for you and your clients. Welcome to The Art of Giving a Damn, the podcast that proves with every single episode that you can create a profitable business doing what you're passionate about and making a positive difference in the world. Now here's your host, Michelle Schaefer.
Hey, welcome to another episode of The Art of Giving a Damn. My guest today is Pradeepa Narayanaswamy, and I'm really curious to have a conversation with you today, Pradeepa. You have chosen a very challenging field to work in, and I'm curious to hear more about how you ended up there. So first, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much, Michelle. So glad to be here today with you.
I am glad that you're here. So for those who are listening, Pradeepa is an infertility coach, and she's been through quite a lot of experiences herself and struggled with infertility. She's gone through the emotional, physical, mental, and spiritual challenges that come along with that. But as you can see, when you go to her website, we'll give you that URL. It's in the link in the show notes too. There's a photo of her with a beautiful child. So Pradeepa, why don't we start with your story and what got you into what you do today?
Absolutely, yeah. My story, what I got into doing today was very interesting, even for me personally. But it all started with, my first miscarriage, actually. So I we've been married now. This is my 20th year in being.
Congratulations.
Oh, yes, thank you. But then one of the things was, when you get married, you're expected to have a child, and that's something that's kind of, quite normal, and me coming from an Indian origin,
right.
It's pretty expected. So when you go on with your life like that, and when things are not happening, especially, that's when, curiosities are perking, and you are also confused, why is this not happening? What's going on here, right? And eventually we get pregnant. I did get pregnant for the first time, but only to miscarry, only to lose the child. And for me, that was very shocking personally for me, that I ended up losing a child, and how naive of me. At the time, I really didn't know 1 in 3 women miscarry in her lifetime. So that's quite a lot of women. That's a big percentage.
I didn't realize.
30% of the pregnancies end up miscarried, actually.
I didn't realize it was that high.
Yeah, it is really high. When it happened to me, really, then that's when I got wow, this is hard. This is really, painful. This is really challenging. And I actually grieved for a very long time after I first miscarried. But then, I got up and, I went about my life, only to get pregnant again, to miscarry again, to get pregnant for the 3rd time, and to miscarry again. So after 3 miscarriages, we ended up seeing our doctor, and our OBGYN was also equally confused, just, hey, what's going on here?
Right.
And then suggested, I want to refer you to a fertility doctor. So little I know at that time, that's going to change my life forever. Very eagerly, because I was, again, naiveness, right? I didn't know that, I didn't even know at that time there was specialists for fertility. I thought, everybody who gets pregnant, if you have unprotected sex, you conceive and you have a child, right?
right.
It's easy, right? But when it didn't happen to me, because people around me, when I grew up, it happened to all of them.
Right.
And so when it didn't happen to me, I got really shocked, why is this? But then when I heard about, there are specialists for fertility challenges or fertility, right? At that time, challenge quite there. So fertility, I was intrigued, and I was also surprised at the same time. And I was thinking to myself, my God, how naive of me. I didn't even know that this existed.
Yeah.
So started seeing the doctors, very excited, because that gave me a new renowned hope, because, I lost three in a row. So now, okay, now this is going to fix me, because now there is a medical problem with me. So they're going to find what that is. We are going to rectify that, and it's going to fix it.
Right.
So we tried, as a fertility doctor, they typically starts with fertility drugs. That didn't work for me. And then, you go on to smaller treatments, less invasive treatments. IUI was the first one, intrauterine insemination. 3 rounds of that, it didn't work. Although the percentage of success with IUIs are typically very, very low in general. So, me being super enthusiastic about these things, I used to spend quite a lot of time in Google searching for data, searching for results, searching for magic pill that's going to help me, that's going to cure me, that's going to help me have a baby, right? So quite a bit of I learned quite a bit during that time. And IUI, as it stands, like, it doesn't have a lot of success percentages. And I was okay with that, knowing that, I may be one of those people.
Right.
And then comes the IVF, which is in vitro fertilization. Until today, that's the golden standard for fertility treatment.
Right.
So I was even optimistic and excited, because IVF had a much larger success rates, and it's more complicated, and it's more, it's one of those latest and greatest treatments out there for fertility challenges. And that's kind of like the doctors talked about it. It gave me a new hope for me.
Right.
And first treatment, you need to be super disciplined. If people don't know what an IVF entails, it entails absolute discipline. And this treatment is not like a 1-day thing or a 1-week thing. It's 3 months of discipline, right from the beginning to the end. It's 3 months of extreme discipline with regards to your medication, with regards to your tests, with regards to injections that you have to self-inject, or somebody has to give you those injections. When they say you have to inject yourself at 6 o'clock a.m. or p.m., you have to do it at that time. So it affects your regular schedule. It affects everything that's going on in your life. But you know what? I was totally okay with that. You know what? This is something that I can easily do. I can something control. 3 months of discipline. And the last step with this process was blood work. The blood work is going to tell you whether, the pregnancy is successful or not, because what they do in IVF is a little bit of science here is they take some of the eggs that I have in my uterus, and my husband's sperm. Outside, they mix it up, form embryos in the lab, and then they put the nicely developed embryos back into your uterus. That's when it's going to start, developing into a baby. And, if it's a successful pregnancy, you will have a successful result, at least the blood work. So the day of the blood work, I was super psyched. I was super excited. I was the first one at the clinic. And even before the clinic was open, and because I want to give my blood work, so the sooner they get my blood work done, the sooner I will get the result, the sooner I get to celebrate. That was my mindset. That was my attitude that day. So went there, gave my blood. I have to go back to work that day. I was super distracted. I was constantly checking my phone, like, oh my God, is the doctor going to call me? Doctor going to call me? Doctor going to call me, right? And they said they will call me in the afternoon, because afternoon is when they will get all the blood results back, and the doctor will have the opportunity to read the charts, and they will call me. So somehow, whatever reason, I was still looking at the phone. I missed the call. It went into my voicemail. I recognized the number because I called the clinic so many times. So I know exactly where the call came from.
Right.
I was super, I don't know what my feeling was. I was very nervous to hear the voicemail, what it is. Then I heard the voicemail, and it was the doctor calling, like, hello, Pradeepa, this is Dr. Campbell, and, I'm very sorry to say, that's it. That's all I heard. I can still remember that. I'm very sorry to say. I didn't hear the rest of the message. My phone actually dropped from my hand. I started crying. I was at the office actually that day. I started crying, like tears started flowing in my eyes, because this is something, the reason why it was like so disappointing for me was this is supposed to be the thing that's going to help me with the baby. This is if this is the golden standard, if it doesn't work, right, what are my chances, right? So I was extremely disappointed. I cried, and then I realized, like, okay, I'm in an office setting. Suddenly I realized that, picked up the phone, ran to my desk, took my bag, and ran out of the office. Even my colleague who was sitting next to me at the time, he looked at me like he didn't know what was happening. He looked at me like, why is she running? And yeah, so it took a while for me to really get out of that disappointment. I actually fell down pretty hard. This is
Yeah.
how I kind of use this analogy to explain how deep that pain was for me. It's as if you're climbing the stairs of the 30th floor building, only to fall face flat from the 30th floor window to the floor. And that's how bad it was for me.
Yeah.
But you know what, Michelle? I picked up the pieces, stuck it again, and I went up again. I went up the stairs again. And I went up the stairs again and again and again for 8 times in a row. Every time I fell face flat and I got even more broken into pieces. So 8 IVF cycles, each of 3 months long, with these extreme disappointments. It tested me as a person. The days moved on in my calendar, but I was stuck in my life. I was stuck physically, I was stuck emotionally, mentally, and spiritually. I was so angry at God. And I stopped praying for 4 years in a row because, you know what? I'm giving myself everything. Like, why me? Like, why not me? Why did you choose me to be this way? What did I do, right? All these why questions that
Yeah.
I couldn't find any answers for. That was my life, Michelle, for 12 years in a row.
Wow. That's a long time to go through the questioning and all of those ups and downs. And I think that the question that actually comes to mind for me is, how did you keep going?
Yeah. Every time, I'm naturally a very optimistic person, and every time when this fall happens, I was able to recover from the fall. You know what? Like, I am going to give it a try. I never give up. I just try
Right.
and try and try, because the doctors tell you, like, let's change this protocol. Let's do this tweak. Let's try this test. Let's do this. My my sixth, seventh, and eighth IVF cycles, they are all donor cycles, meaning after the fifth cycle, doctor said, like, let's stop using your eggs. Maybe there is something that's faulty with your eggs, which we are still not trying to find out why. Let's use somebody's eggs who are much more younger and, much more, healthy. Right. So we
Right.
did try that. And the first time, which is my sixth time, and I used the donor eggs, I did get pregnant with twins. And only to ended up carrying and losing the twins. And seventh and eighth time, it never even succeeded. So the fall was getting more and more treacherous for me. It was more and more hard for me. I was breaking myself even more. At some point after the eighth trial, I just didn't have the courage and the strength to get up and walk all over again.
Right.
The 30th foot floor building, it was daunting for me at that time.
Can't even imagine. Wow. So I know there's more to the story. I know there's more to the story because I've seen the photo on your site. So what actually worked for you? Like, what changed? What did you do? And yeah, share the rest of the story with us.
After the eighth treatment, somehow my husband even said, like, let's even go for one more try, ninth try. And I said, like, you know what? I don't want it to go for the ninth time. Let's stop here.
Yeah.
And together, and he respected that, like, it's my decision. So he totally respected that and supported me. And together we decided to go for adoption. That's the route that we both chose together. That's how we went. And Michelle, it took us 5 years. It's an international adoption. So we adopted our son, Karthik, from India, 3 years ago. At the time, he was 3.5 when we brought him home. Now, today I actually celebrated Mother's Day with him at his school. And what a gift he is, Michelle.
Absolutely.
12 years, I longed for that.
Well, happy Mother's Day.
Really worth it. Thank you. Thank you. And the best gift that I ever got in my life is him.
I can understand that feeling for sure. I think the journey you shared, I know so many women who are at various points on that journey, and I think it's something that you can't understand unless you've been there and gone through it, what that feels like. So what was it that made you decide, okay, I want to become a coach and work with women who are going through this? Like, how did that come about?
I have been a professional coach for 8+ years now, but I was just a professional coach. I never thought about being or becoming a fertility coach. But when we brought our son home, I kind of looked back. I had the option, right? I saw these two roads. I had the option. Okay, you know what? Doesn't matter how my son came. I have a son and I'm a mom, right? And I could have moved on with my life. But you know what I did? I actually looked back and looked at, there's 12 years of struggles that I had, and I never wanted to forget that struggle. And I wanted to do something about it. And what I did was, you know what? I've been a coach already. Now I wanted to help other people who are struggling like me, who are going through the treacherous, who are taking the 30th floor journey. Right? And I wanted to be with them, and I wanted to be by their side. Like you said, this is a journey only people who can understand are the people who have taken it before.
Yeah,
Other than that, when people are on the sides, you may just say like, oh, you can just do this, and you'll get on the... No, it's not. It's not the same. And I don't want to sound any special, but, you know what? Unless people go through infertility and the expectations and the pains, people will not understand this.
Yeah, and I think it's one of those... it's one of those things too that women don't talk about very often. So many times they're suffering in silence, and the partner in the equation, there's almost no support out there for the person who's trying to support the person who doesn't have support in it. I mean, I've watched people struggle through it, and it's like you described. I can watch from the outside, but to understand actually what's going on is impossible.
Yeah, exactly. That is such a hard thing. It's still a taboo subject. Still people are very frustrated. And to me, I struggled in silence for the most part. And I know for a fact that a lot of people struggle in silence. And I am opening up to podcasts like you because I don't want other people to struggle in silence.
Yeah. It is something that it helps so much, whatever the challenge is, to know somebody else is going through it and got through it, found a way to get to the other side of it, because otherwise you really do feel like you're all by yourself. You feel like you're alone in it.
Absolutely. Absolutely. That's why the work that I'm doing is so meaningful for me, because I have been there, and I have been struggling for such a long time, and I didn't have the right people to support me. And that was horrible. That was horrible.
I cannot imagine going through that and feeling alone while you're dealing with emotions that are that deep and that challenging. So as you're working with clients and coaching them through, I would assume helping them stay kind of sane as they go through what is an insane human part of the journey, what do you find is the most challenging part of it for you?
Yeah, one of the things that I'm still seeing that people still don't want to accept that they are struggling, and they think that even talking to somebody like myself or even getting support or help is something they don't want it to do. They don't want to accept that, like, you know what,
Right.
getting help is the best thing that you can do for yourself.
Yeah.
And I have seen it over and over with men and women and couples. And some of them even go with the fact that, like, hey, this is, I don't want it to accept failure, because what they think is getting coaching means that they are giving up on their optimism, where I challenge them, no, you're not giving up on your optimism. In fact, I help you more with the optimism.
Yeah.
My motto is to help your journey, infertility journey, suck less. I cannot control the outcome. I cannot promise your outcome. I will never promise a baby. If I promise, then you should just hang up the phone and you should just run away from me.
Right. If somebody tries to promise that, run.
Yeah. But what I can help you is to help you with your journey to suck less.
I like that. I like how honest that is as far as a motto for what you do. That's a great way to put it, because honestly, sometimes the goal can't be absolute 100% success. It's got to be, let's just get through this as best as possible and
Right.
take care of yourself while you're going through it. Wow,
Exactly.
that's a fantastic motto. So what is your model of working with clients? I know you mentioned that you've recently been working on some new projects, so tell us about that.
Yeah. So typically when clients come to me, I work one-on-one with clients, men and women, and many times I also work with couples, because relationship challenges are something that is quite frequent, and that's pretty common, especially when people are going through infertility. So I do couples coaching as well. Alongside some of my recent projects are, I actually have developed an online course which will be published in Udemy very, very soon. It's a 2-hour worth of amazing content. It's the thing that I liked about this course is basically it's workbook related. It's not like you see me as a talking head. You see me as a talking head, but at the end of the lesson, you will have activities for yourself to do. So the course itself called Take Control and Ownership of Your Fertility Journey. So that's something, because when you take control of your journey, you get to decide how you want it to be in that journey, right? You get to decide how you want to show up. And that, to me, that is really, really important.
Yeah.
For 12 years, I never get to choose how I want it to be. I was just going with what my doctors were saying and what my husband was saying. I never stopped myself for a second and thought, like, hey, is this, I'm so angry. I feel sucky right now. I'm feeling jealous. I'm feeling desperate. Like, I never thought all those things to myself, right? But the course that I have is going to help you figure out, where are you with your emotions? Like, are you even acknowledging? Many people are even afraid to acknowledge the emotions. But only if you acknowledge how you're feeling, then you will decide how you wanted to go about it.
Right. Yeah, I can imagine that's got to be one of the things you hear most from clients, is that they don't feel in control of their life. I mean, when you have something like that's not happening, that you feel like is supposed to, you just feel like you can't control anything. So I can see where shifting that perspective so that they can step back and take control would make a huge difference for people.
Exactly. It doesn't matter what the outcome is going to be. If you don't have control of your life, then you're just giving it away, right? Like, but when you have a good perspective of life and very good perspective of where you want it to be and start thinking about it in that angle, then that means you control. You are not being a victim to infertility. You know what, Michelle? The day that I truly moved on was the day that I realized that, oh my God, infertility is owning me. The day that I realized that I was being a victim, that's when I decided, you know what? Infertility is not going to own me. I am going to own infertility moving forward. And the way that I'm owning it is becoming a coach and serving other people so that their journey will and can suck less.
Yeah. Gotcha. That's such a, like I said, honest way to describe it, just making that journey something that sucks less, that you can get through and feel supported. And I got to ask the question that I try to ask everybody I interview. What is your favorite part of what you do?
it's just having an opportunity to talk to people who are going through these challenging times in their life and be able to share my journey. I always make it a point to share my journey with people. When I share that, a lot of people thank me because they are either able to relate to some parts of my journey, they are able to relate to some of the emotions that I just expressed, and I'm actually giving them opportunity to share, to open up about their journey. Right? I'm actually giving them, some people say, thank you, like this feels like I got permission to share my suckiness with you, Pradeepa. So that's the favorite part. It doesn't matter, Michelle, whether they actually become my client or not, just having a meaningful conversation with somebody. And if that conversation itself helps them to move on, you know what? I made a difference in that person's life. And that's the best thing. That is something that I look forward and I cherish in the job that I'm doing as a fertility coach.
I can see why that would be so rewarding, just to feel that, knowing that you've made a difference for somebody, that connection. I love that. Well, and that explains that you've got so much great content on your website. I took a look at your blog, and there's so many articles there. For anybody who's listening to this, if you've struggled with infertility or you know somebody who is, someone in your life or your circle is, send them over to take a look at Pradeepa's blog, her website. She's got tons of information there for you, and reach out and get in touch with her, because that may be the conversation that, even if you've been avoiding it, is the one you need to have.
Yes, absolutely. Please don't struggle in silence, because I know for a fact how my life sucked, how my relationship sucked, how everything sucked for me when I struggled in silence. So I hear you, I understand you, and I had been there. I'm not just talking the talk. I have walked the walk for a long time. So please have the conversation. Please reach out and, talk. That is the first step. Don't struggle in silence.
Absolutely. So for everybody listening, Pradeepa's website is pradeepafertilitycoach.com. That's spelled Pradeepa, fertilitycoach.com. And there's going to be a link somewhere near where you are watching or listening to this podcast today, so that you can reach out, get in touch with her, or send to those that you love and care about who could use her support and the information she offers. Thank you, Pradeepa, so much for coming on today, sharing your story and how it led you into the business that you have today.
Thank you, Michelle. I'm really grateful for you today. Again, so glad to be here today and having this conversation, which is much needed.
Yes, it's definitely a topic that needs to be out there more, so that people know they're not alone and there is support. Yes. All right. Thank you so much for tuning in. Those of you who are listening to this episode, please rate, like, review, subscribe, and we will catch you back again for another episode.